It's GT the Vibe Podcast coming at you another episode over here. About to rock this thing out. This week is kind of centered around mental health, personality disorders, things like that. We kind of talk about how God intervenes, some things that God did. We spoke about Elijah on a prior podcast episode. And then we talked about the three different types of people: passive. You have your passive, your assertive, your controlling. We talked about Ahab, Elijah, and then Jezebel. This one's going to focus a little bit more on the Jezebel side of things. And so when you look at a controlling, wicked person, is how they would describe Queen Jezebel. She seduced people through being overly sexualized, is one of the terms that they used to kind of describe her. By her teaching, she misleads my servants into sexual immorality in the eating of food sacrificed to idols. So he gave her time to repent of her immorality, but she was unwilling to do so. So in Kings in the Bible, it speaks a lot about Jezebel. 1 Kings chapter 16, 1 Kings chapter 18, 1 Kings chapter 21, and you kind of get to see the type of person that she is. It kind of gives you a overall view of the type of person she is and her personality. And so when I think of Jezebel, I think of some of these personality disorders, the cluster B disorders. You got narcissism and borderline personality disorder, these things. And so my take on it, the way that I pushed it the last couple podcasts, is that yesterday I made a comment. I said trauma opens up wounds and evil comes in. So the wound is opened by trauma, but the problem is that when you go through trauma in your life and you don't have the blood of Christ over you that's protecting you. See, as a Christian, you can have open wounds, but before you go into Christianity, your wounds aren't well covered by God. And so sometimes you get in these situations with people where you kind of get caught up. In these situations, you kind of get caught up. And so when you look at the Jezebel spirit and what that spirit stands for, that's the spirit of immorality, sexual immorality. These type of people that get into the spirit of narcissism and borderline personality disorder, they literally will sexualize themselves to the point where they make you sexually immoral. And so they cause somebody else to sin. They're already rooted and living in sin because there's evil that has accumulated inside of them. Because like I said, trauma opened that wound and evil came in. So once trauma opens a wound, evil comes in, then you understand now what it means to be set to be apart from God. Not set apart, but apart from God. And so these individuals tend to terrorize lives. And they're only out for one thing, themselves. That's they say that's the biggest sin in the Bible. It's one of the biggest sins they say, is because you're idolizing yourself. And so what you do when you get these disorders and you kind of get that evil spirit inside of you, you idolize yourself so much that it doesn't matter what anybody else says, it doesn't matter what anybody else feels, it only matters what you feel. And so when you get to a point in your life where it only matters what you feel, you're committing idolatry. So you're idolizing yourself. And that is a quick path to destruction and a quick path to death. I mean, so they got studies that show that people with these personality disorders typically live 20 years less than the average human being. So definitely a quicker way to death, right? So I'm going to talk about it a little bit. I'm going to talk about Jezebel. I'm going to talk about the disorder. I'm going to talk about relationships involved with this disorder. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about God and how God intervenes in these situations. And sometimes these people just got to find the right person. They just have to find the right person that's going to instill truth in them, that will continually tell them the truth. Because some people will get beat. You will get beat down in these relationships. You will change. Your demeanor will change. Who you believe that you are as a person will change in these relationships. And so what happens is you get to a point where you settle in on a thing, and now you're struggling. And a lot of times people, these people are attracted to people that are well off, that have plans, people that have a good self-image. Right? They want the self-image, so they destroy your self-image so you can feel like them. It's not about them trying to come to your level. It's about them trying to bring you down. And then once they bring you down, you're done. Like, they call it discard. They throw you in the trash like you're a piece of trash that they just picked up off the ground. So they toss you in the trash, and then they keep it moving. And so Jezebel was here to rule over her husband, right? So she's ruling over her husband, Ahab. She's the control freak. Ahab is passive. Had Ahab been more like Elijah, it would have been turmoil. But you understand that he doesn't love her if he allows her to act in this way. Like, at some point in time, you got to be time to put the foot down, and you got to put truth in people, because it says that the truth will set you free. If you want to break away from the chains of the Jezebel spirit, if you want to break away from the chains of bipolar disorder, if you want to break away from the chains of narcissism, if you want to break away from the chains of borderline personality disorder, you have to understand the truth. You have to seek it. Once you seek the truth, the chains can be lifted up off you. And the truth is God. And so once you get into a relationship with God and you're experiencing God in his fullness, it will help push out the demons, and he can heal the trauma. That's trauma that a lot of times these people can't even be healed by therapists, but God can, right? I said that in a prior part. I said, you have all these struggles, but God can. He can, and he will. What he did for Elijah when Elijah was going through his depression, he was in the forest. He led him to the bush for him to lay up under, sent an angel to him for nourishment, because he knew the journey that was ahead of Elijah. And he said, I'm going to help you prepare, because God is that friend that is always there. He's there no matter what. And so when you get down in the dumps and you think about killing yourself, God is there. In the spirit of living in depression and anxiety, like I said before, sometimes you have to live in it for a time. It's a season in order for you to better understand what God has for you on the other side. You'll appreciate what he has more for you on the other side if you allow yourself to live in it. Trust me, I know this because I lived in it myself. So when you live in it and you get to see the other side, you see how it changes you. Sometimes you look back and you're like, man, I don't like the man that I was, or I don't like the woman that I was during this time frame here. And then you see where you are today, and you see the bumps and the bruises and the mistakes that have piled up. But God he still led you, right? He was forever loving. Like the love that he has is in abundance. It's crazy. It's in abundance. Like you can't even take that away from anybody. And brings me to a verse in Philippians 4:6-7. I know I read about this in the past one. Be anxious for nothing, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be known to God. And the peace of God, which surpasses all comprehension, will guard your hearts and your minds. So there, God tells you how important it is for your heart and your mind to be protected in Christ. Because if you don't protect it, evil things can come in. So let's talk about Jezebel. The spirit of Jezebel. Let me give you some characteristics, some things that you'll see when you encounter a person that has this spirit inside them, this demon-based, idolizing themselves spirit. They don't care about anybody else but themselves. They can act caring, right? And it's all about the allure. So very seductive individuals, they can draw you in. And they literally tell you that you're just this high up person, right? And you see the red flags coming on. You can tell, okay, this is weird. They call it idolization. So they're idolizing you, right, to get you sucked in, when really they only care about themselves. But then that's another form of idolatry, because they're idolizing another person. So not only do they idolize themselves, but they use idolatry to bring somebody else in. So now they bring a person in and you're stuck. You see this phase, you remember this person, they idolize the heck out of you. But then the real spirit of Jezebel comes out, the controlling, right? You can't go anywhere, you can't hang out with your friends. They like to keep you away from your family members. They will isolate you because they want you, right, to idolize them the way that they idolize themselves. So now they've taken somebody, they've committed a sin, number one, because they're idolizing themselves. Sin number two is idolizing you. Sin number three is making you idolize them. So there's a triangle of idolization that happens in these type of relationships. And you have to be careful that you see these red flags in the beginning, and if it's time to walk, it's time to walk, right? You have to protect yourself, because when you're with these people, you will have no peace. You will have no rest. Elijah asked for rest. He said, I just need rest, when he was going through his toughest time battling with mental health issues, because he dealt with that Jezebel spirit. That Jezebel spirit will send you spiraling to a place that you don't want to go. And then you will be asking God, can you just give me rest? Literally, that's what he wanted. Give me rest. You will not have rest when you're in a relationship, or you're in a partnership, or that's your friend, that may be a family member. You will not have that with this type of person. This type of person will not allow that. They are energy vampires. They will suck the life out of you literally over time. And God does not like that. And so what happens is, you get in these situations with these people and you pray and you say, God, help me find a way out. And God will literally take you to that bush like he did for Elijah. Send somebody there with nourishments. Send an angel down with nourishments to make sure that you're prepared for the journey that's ahead, because he knows the journey is going to be rough. It's 100% going to be rough. So when you get in these situations, you have to understand that from a biblical perspective, that the journey will not be easy. He will give you order. God will give you a mission and say, hey, this is what I need you to do. And what is he doing? He's taking your mind off of what was and putting your mind on what's coming. So now he's getting you to look ahead again, right? And so he does that in these situations, and now you have the opportunity to move on forward and start to heal. He healed Elijah because he was there. It said he whispered. He heard a whisper. In order for somebody to whisper to you, they have to be right there next to you, next to your person, right there in the trenches with you going to war. So when you're being devalued, talked down to by this person that you're in a relationship with, God is there too, right? And if God put you in authority, right, he put you in a position of authority, and they're talking down to you, just like how she was talking to Elijah. God is there, so she's essentially talking down to God. And that is one person that's one being that you don't want to talk down to. And she found out the hard way, because she died the most gruesome death in the Bible ever. Trampled by horses, thrown out of a window, the most gruesome death ever. And so, characteristics of that spirit, I kind of gave you a few as we kind of talked through that. Controlling, manipulative, quick to anger. I've always said that anger, being overly emotional, is not rooted in God's righteousness. Being overly emotional is rooted in evil. There is evil behind the abundance of emotion. Anything in excess is not good, right? Moderation is key. You can be emotional, but when you get overly emotional, there's some evil behind that you need to seek out and figure out what's going on. These people can't control their emotions. They are extremely emotional. They're extremely vulnerable. They don't want to be abandoned. They don't want you to leave them. They hate you, but they don't want you to go. So they're going to hate on you while you're here, treat you like trash, and then eventually kick you to the curb and find somebody else. And these people go through cycles, and they just go over and over and over again. And so you'll have the female that will sleep with a whole bunch of married dudes. Like, that's what they do. That type of person has the Jezebel spirit within them. That is the spirit of evil. They will sleep with a bunch of married dudes. They don't care. Because it's about them. They will do that because it's about them. They will literally hate the person's spouse. Like, it'll be a dude that's got the Jezebel spirit. He's sleeping with a bunch of married chicks. Like, that's who he seeks out. You're like, out of all the people out here, you can't seek out a person that's single. You got to seek out a person that's in a relationship already. Evil, the Jezebel spirit. Trauma opened a wound, and evil found its way in because this person was not protected by Christ. And so they will utilize any means to attempt to manipulate and control what you're doing, right? And so you call them out, you speak truth to them. They may have an overreaction that doesn't make sense. So if you're in a relationship with somebody and they react in a way that doesn't make sense, or is not like if you're here and it's a small thing and they blow up and like it's a big thing, you need to start paying attention, because these are things that they do. They don't like truth. They hate the truth. You tell them the truth, they will shut down, ignore you. One thing that me and my female counterparts talked about on one of our podcasts is, if somebody needs to go away for multiple days, no contact with you, to be able to, after a fight, after some truth was told, that person probably shouldn't be in a relationship. They probably got some issues that they need to speak about with a therapist, or they need to be prayed for, obviously. And then these people will also mirror what you're doing. So if you're a religious person, they'll become religious. Never was religious before. Becomes religious. Starts reading the Bible. Starts speaking verses out of the Bible. And it's like, where in the heck did this come from? This is not normal, right? And then they will turn that against you. That is their game. Their game is to, because they idolize you, they want to be like you, right? They want to be in your shoes because their shoes suck. And so they want to be in your shoes. So they will literally put themselves in your shoes and then break you down piece by piece as they begin to know more about you. And then once you want them, they don't want you no more. On to the next. And it's a continuous cycle that never ends. It keeps going and going and going and going. But God, until they make the decision that they need help, that they're going to fix whatever needs to be fixed, it's not going to get fixed, right? It'll never get fixed unless the person that's causing the problem wants to fix the problem. And most of the time, the person that's causing the problem don't want to fix the problem. So, sorry. So, Jezebel. Sexual immorality, idols, fornication, adultery, consistent adultery, not caring, doesn't give a damn about nobody but themselves. And so the Bible speaks on Jezebel, and it speaks on her in a way that basically tells you what it is. But God. So now we're going to go into the but God category. So we talked about Jezebel, the type of relationship that you'll have. They're controlling, seductive. They draw people in. They typically can draw people in very easily. And so what will happen is they'll get into a relationship, and they'll have a lot of relationships in a short period of time. And like sometimes the spirit clicks out of nowhere. Like this can be a person that had trauma back in high school. They married for 6 or 7 years, or they're together for 6 or 7 years. They may cheat on their spouse, or something happens with their spouse. They leave their spouse, and then it clicks, and it's a spiral. And then once they dig the hole that they've dug, so they dig this big old hole, eventually you got to lay down in the hole that you dug. And the problem with these people is they don't want to lay down in it. And so it'll be a cycle. And so you'll have a guy, let's just use it. I've been using female. Let's just guy, because guys can have the Jezebel spirit too. Has trauma in high school, ends up getting married, having kids, married 4 or 5 years, whatever. Something happens in the relationship, cheat. So let's just say they cheated. Let's just say that they cheated on their spouse. Spouse finds out, they blame their spouse for them cheating, right? And so that's when you realize that the spirit was lying dormant that whole time. Now it's awake, but now it's awoken. And that person, that same person that was just in a decently long-term relationship will go and have a whole bunch of different relationships just cycling through. Typically, these people change their looks often, change minor things about them. These people are anxious. They bite their nails. They may bite their fingers. They may bite their lips. They may scratch themselves. They may cut themselves. These habits that are picked up, unhealthy habits of self-harm, they will do that because they don't know how to deal with the abundance of emotion that is coming over them. And that's why I say to people that, they're all, we got to be emotional. You got to be emotional, this and that and the other. I'm like, an abundance of emotion is actually evil. An abundance of emotion is actually evil. I'm not saying don't feel. I'm saying be careful feeling too much. Because these people, they feel too much. And so when you got somebody that's deeply rooted in feeling all the time, you'll start to notice some of these traits start to be carried out over time. And so you have to be careful that you're not, see anything in abundance, even something that could be perceived as good. In too much, you have too much, it could turn into a bad thing. And so now you shifted it into a bad thing. And that's not where you want to go. You want to keep everything that's good, and anything that's bad, you want to keep it bad. But keep things in moderation so that way you don't end up in this position, right? Again, but God. So these people are manipulative. They're masterminds of, they will lie about everything. They will have a self-image outside. So they will have a self-image outside of you guys, right? That's different than when they're at home. They be at home and it's a totally different part. You at home and you feel like you're living with the devil, but outside the home, they think it's an angel. This person's an angel. They keep that image up because that is what it's idolizing them. right? They may devalue and demean you as their partner, but they're idolizing their self. And so that's the reason why they say narcissism and these type of disorders may be some of the most deadly sins, because it is idolatry. And that is the number one thing. Like, God is a jealous God. So if you're idolizing yourself, he will break you down until you can't be broken down anymore. And then when you get broke down to the bottom, if you still want to idolize yourself, he will break you down some more. And then if you want to keep going, the cycle can continue. Because understand this, God does not play with that. He's not playing. Like, when Jezebel got thrown out the window and she was trampled, that was the most gruesome death talked about in the Bible. Right? She led so many people into sexual immorality. She led so many men astray. Right? She led so many people that had promise in the kingdom away from the kingdom. She's leading people away from God. This spirit was leading individuals away from God. That was the goal of this spirit. And so this spirit can use God to lead people away from God. Let me say it again. Can use God to lead people away from God. Because understand this about the devil, about Satan, that he knows who God is, because he was once up. He was ascended. Then he got descended when he couldn't act right. So he was up there. So he knows, right? And so these people, when they get these evil spirits in them, they know. And so they will read the Bible and use that against you. The number one thing you can do in this situation is pray, though. Pray. Understand that prayer can literally heal and maneuver things that you probably never thought were going to happen ever. Prayer will fix a lot of things in people's lives. According to the Bible, God can help people overcome narcissism, bipolar disorder, or not borderline, per BPD, by helping them turn away from themselves. Number one, so rule number one, we're going to write this down. Rule number one, how God can fix these people. Turn them away from themselves. Because if they're turned to themselves, idolizing themselves, they can't have a proper relationship with the Lord. The Bible warns against the traits associated with narcissism, such as selfishness, self-promotion, and self-idolatry. The book of Proverbs refers to narcissism behaviors as foolishness. They call them foolish people because they are extremely foolish. And some say that narcissism can be seen as the ultimate sin because people choose to worship and control themselves and others. One of the most hugest sins right there, because they're controlling, they are literally choosing to worship themselves. If you don't worship God and you don't put God first, because if you do put God first, you're not going to do the things that these people do. You're not going to consistently do the things these people do. If you put God first and you are seeking him first and his kingdom and his righteousness, you're not going to do these things. So here's some ways the Bible suggests God may deal with them. So number one, turn them away from themselves. 2, allow them to suffer. God may let a narcissist choose their own selfish misery. For example, 1 Corinthians 13:3 states that those who don't love have nothing, because love is about sacrificing oneself for others. So he will take everything that you have and allow you to suffer, and you will suffer until you can turn away from worshiping yourself. He will allow you to suffer. 3, expose them. God may expose a narcissist so that others can learn from God's punishment and avoid being hurt. For example, 1 Timothy 5:20 says, those who persist in sin should be rebuked in front of others so that others may be afraid. Publicly put your business out there in the streets, right? So you're the example for others not to follow, right? So first of all, turn you away from yourself, turn you to him, allow you to suffer, expose them. 4th one, it's a good one, judge them. God may ask a narcissist if they love God with all their heart, soul, mind, and strength, because narcissists love themselves above all else. They will not be able to avoid this question, and then judgment will happen. And so they say God's love can cover even a narcissist's sin. But that doesn't mean that their behavior is excusable. Others say that clinical counseling and prayer are the only ways to change a narcissist's heart. You need clinical counseling. You need both of them. You got to have them in concert with each other for you to be able to fix some of these issues. But there's a will that has to come from the person. Jezebel didn't want change. Let's be honest, she didn't want change. Jezebel did not want to change. Most of these people, they don't want to change, right? There are those that do want to change, and they work hard at it to change. They go to the therapy sessions. They pray. Whatever it takes. They do whatever it takes. They try to be conscious of how they're treating others. There are people that are giving it their all to change these disorders and not treat people the way that they've treated people for a long period of time. These people recognize that there's a need for change. And I think that's the number one thing. If you don't recognize that there's a need for change in yourself, if you continue to say that there's only a need for change in somebody else, you're not going to get anywhere. So I'm gonna end this section. I'm gonna talk about my high school relationship a little bit and kind of give you guys some insight on some BPD stuff that I didn't. I was obviously in high school, so I didn't know what the heck I was doing. Just trying to do what I can do. But I noticed that I'm a pretty calm person. I stay pretty calm. I can get amped up sometimes. Yes, I'm a man. I will get amped up every now and again, but I stay pretty even keel. I try to understand. Sometimes I can't. So sometimes I struggle to fully understand or comprehend what somebody's telling me. And it depends on how they're telling me. Like, I'm a very straightforward person, so tell it to me like it is. But in high school, in that relationship, I don't say names or anything like that. But started out great. It was like literally like, is this real? I think in the beginning I had questions. I said, man, is this real? Like, is this a real relationship, or is like something like, what happened? Right? And so you're going through that, you're being idolized. They're telling you how great you are. And essentially what they're doing, they don't see you like that. Right? That is what they see that they need in their life. And so they project it onto an individual, a person, they project it onto you. And in order for them to be able to chase. And so you get in a relationship, and it's crazy. Like, you're just like, this is nuts. Like, this is absolutely crazy. You know, boosting you up, giving you kisses, telling you how good you are, yada, yada, yada. You look good, yada, yada, yada. And the crazy thing is that when I look back prior to getting a relationship, this individual, because at that point in time, I was like real skinny. I had no muscle mass, right? She's like, I don't like skinny dudes. Like, telling me stuff like that before we even. So she showed me signs that something was off before I even got into a relationship with her. So then I get in a relationship with her, and then all of a sudden it's just like, oh, well, yeah, you look great, yeah, yada, yada, yada. And I'm thinking in my head, like, you said before that you wasn't. And then, but they always have an excuse or a rebuttal. You literally can't say anything to these people without them having some type of comeback or get back. Right? They have an explanation for everything. Like, you could literally catch them cheating and they'll have an explanation for it. I'm like, well, this is why I did it, and this is your fault. Or, no, I didn't really do that. That's what you think I did, but that's not what I did. I'm trying to tell you what I did, but what you think I did is not what I did. So I'd have those conversations, and it was so confusing. And when I realized that I was confused the whole damn time, from the start of meeting the individual to the end of the relationship, I was confused the whole damn time. Right? Confusion causes chaos. And so when they put you in the mindset of confusion, they're essentially causing chaos inside your brain. And once they start putting that chaos in there, all they got to do is tap in every now and again to keep the chaos going. And so that's what they're doing. They are causing chaos inside your brain. So I was confused the whole time. Literally confused. I didn't even know what love is. She said she loved me first, which is weird. Happened within like a couple months. I know that I didn't feel like we should have been saying that, but I kind of went along with it because, I'm a little teenage dummy. First little love life and all that jazz. So I'm like infatuated with her, right? So I was infatuated with her. And so I let it rock. I let it rain. And then you come down from the honeymoon phase, and then it got real. It was constantly being told what I'm not doing or what I'm going to do or what she believed I said. And half the time I never said anything. I don't be saying nothing. She wanted me to do this. I didn't want to do it. She'd throw a fit, cry on the floor, whatever. And it was almost like a kid trapped inside of an adult body. Kid thinking, kid logic. Looking for somebody to be a parent, essentially. Take care of me, take care of me, take care of me. You hear that a lot. And so I was between a rock and a hard place, because being myself, who I was back then, who I probably still am today, I'm a caring person. I'm a nice person. I care about people. I'm very empathetic with people. And so it's hard for me to not want to care and nurture somebody who's struggling. And so when they try to put me and they are attracted to people like that, so they will come after you, because they know that protector mindset, that assertiveness, that knowing who you are and being confident in yourself. They lack that, so they come after people that have that. But they'll break you down to your core. And so I didn't realize all that. And so we get to the end of the relationship, and I remember how it happened. It was kind of weird. She was at like soccer camp or something like that, if I remember right. And like, there's a minor change in the way that we kissed. She kind of started doing something different. That's when I knew. I said, something is up. This is weird. Like, a sudden change is weird. And so I thought, okay, there's a sudden change. Something's up. And so I asked about it. And the fact that I asked about it, you'd have swore World War III was about to bust out. Snapped on me, flipped out, and just walked out. So I said, okay, like, I'm done with this. I can't, and they never can take responsibility for their actions. It's always somebody else's fault. It's always going to be somebody else's fault. And until you allow God to give you truth. You can give these people truth all day, every day. They ain't listening to you, right? You have to listen to them, but they ain't got to listen to you. They don't give a damn what you say. But God. And so I was rooted in Christianity back in those times. So after the breakup and everything, it was toxic. I don't talk to this person to this day. I will never talk to this person again, probably. But it got real toxic. Like, I remember she brought a dirty clothes hamper that was like waist high with like all my clothes and everything I ever gave her. She put in this dirty clothes hamper, and she was like, come pick this up. So I come pick it up, and I'm like, well, she must want her stuff back too. So I put everything in a box. At this point in time, I'm done. I'm being petty. I'm a little petty little teenager. So I put everything in a box, right? And I got in my car, and I pull up, and she got my stuff out by the curb. And so I pull up, and I'm like, okay, let me grab your stuff out real quick. She's like, no, I don't want that. You just take this. Essentially, erasing any remnant from me from their life. But leaving me with remnants of them in my life still. Because they want me to feel the pain over and over and over again. It took me some years to realize what was happening. I'd already moved on, gotten a better relationship with a better individual, more healthy, more stable individual. Taught me how to be stable in the relationship in areas where I struggled. But it took me a while to understand what was going on. It took me a while. And now I've got friends that have gone through it, and it's easier for me to go talk to them and say, hey, man, this is what's going on. I will give them the real if they will take it. Some people won't take it. Some people are infatuated. They're, I'm in love. I can't let go, yada, yada, yada. They give you all this stuff, right? When in reality, if you put God first, great things will happen for you in your life if you put him first. And so that's what I did during that time. I kind of had to go back to my roots a little bit. What I noticed is that relationship took me away from my relationship with God. I strayed away from my relationship with God. You want a partner who's healthy enough and understands that if you're a Christian, they're going to let you rock with Jesus. They're going to make sure you're rocking with Jesus. They're going to make sure if you ain't going to church or you ain't having a Bible study or you ain't reading the Bible, you're not praying, they're going to be asking you if you're doing those things, and they're going to be praying for you. A good partner will definitely pray for you. But these people with the Jezebel spirit will lead you so far away from God that sometimes you feel like you can't come back. Sometimes you feel like God doesn't want you to come back. I was watching a pastor talk about, he walked out on his family was gone for 3 months, sleeping on dudes' couches. He was on a Mark Driscoll show. And, he said that one day God told him to go back home. He'd been out for a while. He's just out here doing his thing. And because he wasn't happy, which is what I'm going to be unmarried. I'm going to lead a relationship because I'm not happy. I just want to be happy again. But these people that want to be happy have no gratitude, right? They are not happy with themselves. You can't expect somebody else to make you happy. It's not their job. It's your job to find content with you. Now, if you're unhappy with yourself, do something about it. That's what I tell people. But back on track. So, he said God literally told him, "Hey, you need to go home. You need to go home." He hadn't talked to his wife in a month, and so he texted her. The only thing that he can even fathom to type in to send her via text is, "Can I come home?" She replied with one word: "Yes." And the crazy thing about it is, what gets me kind of teary-eyed right now about it is that God put that person in his life for a reason. It's a sign of a healthy relationship. You're going through something. This dude he wasn't going away to go find another woman. He was just lost. And his wife was praying for him the whole time. There's two different types of people. There's people that pray that God takes people out of their life, and there's people that pray that God will better people that are in their life. Better me, better my kids. Like how do I get better? There's two different type of people. People who will try to pray people out of their lives probably got that Jezebel spirit twinkling around inside of them, utilizing God to do their dirty work. God ain't gonna do your dirty work. Now, you may ask if you're a narcissist and you're in a relationship with a dude or you're in a relationship with a chick and you ask God to take that person out your life, God gonna definitely he gonna get that person out your life, and then that person's gonna find a path and excel, and you're gonna be stuck in the same place that you have been the whole time because you don't want to change yourself. Now I'm shifting. I'm talking to the narcissists and the people with borderline personality disorder. Understand the truth. Face it. Everybody else faces the truth. That doesn't you're not exempt from facing. Because if you don't face the truth now while you're on earth, when you get buried in that ground, you're damn sure going to face the truth then. And that's a truth that you don't want to face. That's an eternal truth. Do you want to face an eternal truth just because you can't be honest with yourself here on earth? You're living in hell on earth, and you're going to live in hell when you leave earth. Why not try to live in heaven when you leave earth? Why not try to fix your internal hell that you're living in inside of you? Why not? They say, I can't do it. There's no way. But God. G-O-D. Capitalize all the letters. Allow him to work in you. Allow him to change your circumstance. Allow him to change your perspective. Allow him to change your heart. It's a matter of the heart. Yes, there are people that don't know that they have these disorders, or people that struggle and they don't know. But when a person hurts another person, whether they have a disorder or not, they know they're hurting another person. Everything's calculated. Everything's a choice. So you can't tell me these people ain't making choices. It's just like a gay person saying, I didn't have a choice. Yes, you did. Because if you didn't, you wouldn't be gay. That was your choice. So in closing on this, guys, be careful, right? Be watchful. Be assertive. These people need assertive people in their lives. People that are going to be like, hey, stop. Like, what are you doing? Why on earth are you doing this? Hey, you don't do that. You're not supposed to be doing that. That's not right. You know that's not right. These people don't like to be held accountable. And eventually, they may probably throw you away because you've held them accountable too much. And you know what happens when they throw you away? Go in the trash. But God. And then God going to pick you up out the trash, put you back down on earth, and he's going to send you to that bush. You're going to get rest, right? You're going to get nourished, right? You're going to get direction because God is there the whole time. To the survivors, God is there the whole time. Don't allow yourself to become like them. Don't play their games. Don't try to inflict pain on them. Because the pain that they're going to have to get now, the pain that they're going to continue to go through for the rest of their life, that's on them. That's not on you. You didn't put that pain there. You didn't do anything. You didn't do anything but show up. Some of you showed up too much. It's GT again with the Vibe Podcast. I appreciate you guys rocking with us, continuing to roll with us. We will continue to push it, continue to work on it. Got some things coming down the pipe. Later on this week, we will have my guy, Clint Harris, Deputy Clint Harris. He's going to come. We're going to do some more mental health stuff, kind of focusing on mental health. It's something that's been on my heart for a while, just like how I kind of went through the domestic abuse stuff. Now we're kind of in the mental abuse and that type of thing. So we're talking about mental health and ways to heal. So I look forward to rocking with you guys. Look forward to another episode coming out soon. Please like, subscribe, and share. If you have any comments, please comment them down below. Let us know what you think, and we will continue to push it. This is GT the Vibe Podcast. I'm out.